To get to France, we take the ferry from Newhaven on the south coast. We've already trained and cycled to get on board, and it's 4 hours across the English Channel before we arrive at the port of Dieppe, typical of many Normandy coastal towns with its seaside promenade and picturesque views. The first part of our 150-mile biking journey all the way to Paris will take us 40 miles inland to the town of Forges-les-Eaux, all of it on clearly marked bike paths through pasturelands, farming country and forests, lined with occasional grand houses and chateaux. Forges-les-Eaux is a pretty traditional Normandy town. And like many towns in this part of France, it bore the brunt of the fighting in both the First and Second World Wars. Memorials are found in every village, perfectly kept. Our route today starts off-road in forest outside town. Along the trail, a lone memorial stands for an Australian fighter crew shot down here in 1944. The trail soon opens up and we're in dairy country. A few miles further on, we climb into forest again before the route opens up on an exposed plateau with wonderful views. We pass through ancient villages, their churchyards housing more memorials for the war dead. Wide open, seemingly empty plains of prime agricultural land add a quiet serenity to this part of the trip. As the trail descends and approaches the River Seine, it then becomes a dedicated bike path again, part of the famous London to Paris route. Our 50-mile journey today ends on the banks of the River Seine, for hundreds of years one of France's most important transport routes. The Seine winds 150 miles from the Atlantic coast through Normandy to Paris. Today, our 60-mile ride starts out following the river before the route, edging closer to Paris, winds its way through a landscape characterised by urban decay and heavy industry. But after a further 10 miles, the bucolic landscapes and ancient villages of rural France re-emerge, and the trail even goes off-road. No doubt the rocky track causing our first puncture of the trip. Back on the road, we may only be 30 miles away from Paris, but the quiet B road sees little traffic. Paris is surrounded by magnificent forests, interlaced with superb bike trails. This is Forêt de Massy, the first forest we encounter on the outskirts of the capital. It's not far from here to Versailles, where you can join bicycling tourists in the crowded forests and grounds of the famous palace built by the Sun King, Louis XIV. From here, it's only 10 miles to the centre of Paris. And to get there, you can ride the far less touristed and beautifully atmospheric trails of the Bois de Boulogne, a giant forest covering 400 acres bordering the western suburbs of central Paris. No! Here, our second puncture of the day, quickly repaired before we hit the streets of the capital. Our final destination in sight. Our 3-day journey ends by the Seine at the Eiffel Tower.